Hey guys, this is Gene Jensen with BassResource.com. I had a question come up a couple of weeks ago after I put out the video about fishing a fluke. The question was, how exactly do I hook a fluke, and what are some of the things that I can do to modify it? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically go through what I do or some of the things I've done in the past to modify a fluke and go through the basics of hooking it. Start off with, I've got my standard white ice super fluke, a 5/0 round bend worm hook. Now with any fluke, whether it be a super fluke, a junior, or just a standard fluke or whatever, paddle tail fluke, you always want to make sure that you hook it straight down the center of the bait. In other words, you want your hook to be perfectly in line with the center line of that bait throughout the whole process. Okay, now two different ways I hook it. First of all, just like in my video about fishing or putting a hook in a worm, you want to lay that hook alongside that fluke and see what angle everything's going to go in at. Okay, and I'm doing a lousy job of doing it to this camera, but anyway. And you'll notice that with a round bend, with an offset round bend, that hook eye, the section between that hook eye and that bend is going to be at an angle. So that's where you want to start. You want to start off with putting it in at an angle. Okay? So instead of like you do with a extra wide gap, you'd go straight down. This one you go in at an angle and come out, and you make sure that you go into the center of the bait and come out on the center line. Okay, so it looks like that, and it's directly on the center line. Actually, that is not, because I suck. Let's try that again. Center to center line. Okay, see, just like that, and it's center line. Now, do your old Texas rig. Another question that came up was do I leave the eye of the hook in or out? If I'm going to do a whole lot of jerking, I leave the eye out like that. Okay. If I'm not going to do a whole lot of jerking, I'm just going to do this. Oh, that's one of our feeders just went off. Okay. Same thing. I'm going to take it, and instead of going all the way through like you would with a wide gap, you just kind of tuck it in there. Just like that. Lift it up and pull it down. It goes just like that. Okay? And notice that everything is center line. That's one way I hook it. The other way I hook it is I'll flip it around the other way. I'll turn the hook or I'll turn the fluke over, and I'll go at the back of the fluke. And I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm not going to go through it slowly. Okay? I go out the back of the fluke. I'll do it that way too. That's if I want the fluke to go this way. Both of them have a different action, okay? And you just play around with it, figure out what the bass want, figure out what you like, is the big thing. All right, now, different modifications to a fluke. Let me back up so you guys can see this. All right, and I don't have any, but I'll explain it. I'm out of them. One thing I do is people talk about putting a lead nail or a nail into a fluke to get it to sink or sink a certain way. What I do is I'll go into the closet and get an old wire hanger, and I'll cut it up into little small pieces. You know, I'm not really picky about what the length of is, but little small pieces, and I'll use that as my nail, and I'll slide them into the fluke. Some people put them into the head of the fluke, some people put them in the middle, some people put them in the tail. I like putting it in the tail when I do it, because it'll cause it to float. It'll cause it to float down just like this, okay? Depending on the size of the nail. I don't like using lead. I feel like it's too heavy. Another thing that I do, I figured this out when I was first getting into fishing. A buddy of mine took me to or when I was getting into bass fishing, a buddy of mine took me to the FLW championship, and Guido Hibden and Dion Hibden were there giving a seminar. Well, after the seminar, I stopped Dion, and we started talking about flukes and things like that. And he showed me a way to weight the fluke to where it will fall perfectly horizontal, just like this. And I tried it out probably a month later, and absolutely slayed the fish underneath a couple of docks. But you take a little bitty bell sinker, teeny tiny little bell sinker, smallest one they make, and you slide it on the hook. before you put the hook in back into the bait. Okay, so it swings freely on the hook. All right, so when you cast it out, it'll fall to the lowest part of that hook, which is right there, and it'll cause it, the fluke to fall just like that. All right, other modifications are changing the color. I dipped mine in JJ's Magic, you know, all kinds of different colors. I've got several pictures of flukes that I've modified with those colors. I can't think of anything else. That's basically all I do. I don't do much. Always make sure you got a swivel in front of your fluke when you're jerking it around and stuff like that. Prevents twisting your line, gives you a little bit extra weight to get it down if you're fishing it weightless. The swivels that I use are just large ones. I don't know what size they are. Just look at the rack, find some big ones, and throw them in the basket. And that's about it. Flukes are pretty versatile. You can put them on a Carolina rig, put them on a Texas rig. I mean, fish them weightless, anything. They just look like a bait fish, so you can do just about anything with them. One winter I was fishing. It was really cold, and there was quite a shad die-off, and I couldn't get the bass to bite. They were all in the bottom, on the bottom, about 20 feet deep. And so I put a fluke on a Carolina rig, and I started catching them on a Carolina rig because I was dragging that fluke along the bottom like it was dying. Other than that, that's it. Like I always say, visit bassresource.com for the answer to all your questions about bass fishing, and have a great day.